When we generally think about the problems that we're trying to solve with HubSpot payments, we really do think about like two sides of a given coin. One of them is that rep assisted sale. Like we know that high consideration sales are a reality and those aren't going to go anywhere. But there's also that more touchless online B2B e-commerce sale. And we think that there's just so much opportunity for businesses to lean into it. And so when it comes to like how we're building these products and how we think about the opportunity for these products, we're really trying to build in both of those areas.
Welcome to RevOps Champions, a podcast designed for revenue professionals looking to advance sales and marketing initiatives through the role of RevOps within their organizations. In each episode, we feature leaders who are leveraging technology to drive operational efficiency, revenue, and improve the customer experience. Listen in and learn how to become a better RevOps leader within your own organization. Let's get started.
Hello, Jack. I am so very excited that you're here with us today. Jack Coopersmith with HubSpot. Why don't you just start off real quick with telling our audience who you are, what you do at HubSpot, and I'd love it if you give me a fun fact.
Fun fact. Okay, that's a curveball there, Tiffany. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here today. I'm super excited to chat with you about HubSpot payments and all things really HubSpot. So I work on the go-to-market team for HubSpot payments, and I genuinely do have the coolest job at HubSpot. This is really our top priority from a product perspective. If you will follow HubSpot at all, I'm sure that you've heard us talk quite a bit recently about becoming a commerce company and really creating the first and major commerce-powered CRM within the marketplace. So I work on the coolest team. I work on the coolest product at the coolest company. Fun fact for myself. So most humans have two collarbones. I only have one collarbone because I broke mine when I was living in China, actually. And it ended up just not even healing and they had to take it out. And so that's one of those weird I guess it's not that fun, but a weird fact about myself. Only one collarbone. What about you, Tiffany? Any fun facts that you want to share? And how many collarbones do you have?
I have two collarbones, and I think it's really funny whenever you hear people talk about fun facts that not many people know. It is so often that it comes to something weird about their body. They have two thumbs or they only have one collarbone. So I think that's really fascinating. I just made that observation. Fun fact about me is I once had to outrun a hurricane in a prop plane when I was in grad school. And that was because we were picking up some equipment that was measuring the movement of barrier islands in the Dry Tortugas, which are all those little islands off the edge of Key West down in Florida where I grew up. And so that was a bumpy ride, and it's been a fun story to tell ever since.
Wow. Any other run-ins with hurricanes? Or
Well,
very
sure.
close
I
run-ins
spent a
with hurricanes?
lifetime in Florida, so I have a
Yeah.
lot of hurricane-related stories. The hurricane party was always at my house, so that was always fun growing up. I'm super excited that we're going to be talking about payments today. It is top of mind for a lot of our clients. But before we dig into that specifically, I'd really love to just talk about that transition a little bit. You know, there's this arc in the beginning. HubSpot was all about inbound marketing. That was new. And then we shifted into this flywheel. And now what is very evident is that HubSpot is positioning itself as the CRM for commerce. Can you talk a little bit about this latest shift? And I'm not suggesting that it's new, but it's definitely a shift from where we were a couple of years ago. If you could expand on that a little bit, I'd love that.
Yep, that's a great question. And I always do like to really anchor ourselves in this product specifically in the arc of HubSpot, because I do think that HubSpot has a couple of different competitive edges, but our main competitive edge, and I go as far as even saying one of our superpowers, is we really do understand market forces and what's going on with the internet in general. And then we build tools to allow for businesses to really capitalize on those market forces. And so early on in the early 2000s, we noticed that things like caller ID was preventing those, spam calls from working as well. And the market was just the marketing world was just shifting in a really big way. And so we took a look around and said, look, we need to be able to, we need to help businesses attract traffic to their website, offer something up before taking money from someone. And so we really pioneered inbound marketing, and whoever hopped on that train, they don't regret hopping on that train. It was really a motion that still works today in so many ways. As our tool set expanded, though, when we were looking around at the market and we were asking, what is it that makes companies successful nowadays? It was the companies that were offering amazing experiences online to their buyers that seemed to really be succeeding. And so in order to provide killer online experiences to your customers, you really needed to have all of your front office data centralized in one place. So we built a CRM, we built sales tools, we built service tools. We broke down the silos between those front office teams to allow for our customers to give their customers the best experience possible online. And we were talking about running your entire business on HubSpot, but being completely honest with ourselves, you couldn't fully run your entire business on HubSpot because your commerce data was always just siloed in the back office. And we don't think that that commerce data deserves to live in the back office anymore. We think it deserves to live in the front office with your CRM data and really build out more of a middle office, to be completely honest. And so this is a new shift in the market that we see. And we think that the folks who hop on the commerce-powered CRM train that is just now starting to leave the station will be as happy as they were when they hopped on that inbound train and hopped on that flywheel train as well. So we really do think about this age of the commerce-powered CRM and connecting everything together as HubSpot 3.0 in a lot of ways.
I love that analogy of a train. It started in marketing and then we're just adding stops. Now we're having both the front end and the back end. And I think what's great about that is there's still a lot of track in front of us. There's a lot to be done. And it's always excited to be on the HubSpot train. I bleed orange just like everybody at HubSpot. And so it's definitely, it's been a fun ride.
It's a new motion for us as well. And I do think a lot of HubSpot users don't spend that much time thinking about like their commerce motion. I think nowadays businesses can't afford to think about, I have this marketing problem and this customer service problem and this sales problem. So I'm just going to go fix those individual functions. You really need to think about your entire go-to-market strategy, and the way that you make money and sell your products or services is a huge, huge part of this. Now, the ceiling in front of us is very, very large. FinTech is obviously a very interesting and dynamic space. I'd also say, though, that this doesn't have to be scary. This doesn't have to be hard either. We're building this the HubSpot way. Frankly, if you jump into HubSpot Payments, if you give it about 5 to 10 minutes of effort, you're going to know exactly how it works, exactly what it can do. So we're also on a mission to demystify this commerce world. It just doesn't to be that complicated. So we're also just trying to make it as simple as HubSpot generally does with complex things.
Yeah. And I think right now, especially, we are watching our pennies more than we have in the more recent past. And I think this visibility into the commerce right along, I love this latest update where I can see payment activity right in my activity timeline. I don't have to go looking for it. And that relieves some anxiety that we have about our cash flow and our revenue numbers. Can you talk a little bit? Let's dig into that a little bit more, if you don't mind, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So our whole vision is to create a commerce-powered CRM. And by 2028, it's our goal to be the number one commerce-powered CRM for small and medium-sized businesses in the whole world. Now, we're doing this in a very simple way. To be completely honest, we're just building more CRM objects. That's pretty much it. So we built the payment object, which represents a transaction. You can also, of course, run recurring payments on HubSpot as well, and on HubSpot Payments as well. Now, whenever a recurring payment is run, a subscription record is created automatically. And that will hold things like ARR, MRR, next payment due date, start date, end date, information that I imagine everyone would expect to see around a subscription. And because of the fact that these are objects, they'll fit right into the right sidebar of a given record. You'll see it on that timeline. You're able to use these objects in the custom report builder the way that you always have. You're able to build payment and subscription-based workflows the way that you can build contact company or deal-based workflows. So we're really just simply building objects. That's it, which makes the learning curve extremely simple for our customers, which is absolutely fantastic. One thing that I do always say as well, Tiffany, is it's a huge win for businesses to be able to see all of their data in one place. It's a whole different conversation, though, when you can actually do things with that data. And that's the power of the HubSpot framework. That's the power of the HubSpot objects. So folks, those are the objects that we have right now. I can assure you, you will be seeing some more in the near future too, that we're very excited about.
Absolutely. You know, when you think about you can double your revenue with your existing customers, you know, that revenue model that looks more like a bow tie, right? Where rather than just that funnel coming in is really supported by this, because when the marketing department can see who's bought these pieces, then you can start retargeting and nurturing those existing customers with a lot more detail and really hitting the nail on the head with exactly, oh, well, we know they did this. We know that the next thing that they're probably going to want to, so you're able to anticipate that from a marketing partnership with the sales and the whole thing. It's this great spinny, as my friend Gran likes to say, spinny.
None of that is ever happening at all if your data is just completely disconnected too. So those conversations don't even happen when your commerce data is living siloed in the corner of the back office.
Right. And which is why HubSpot's primary message right now is the disconnection, you know, not only in our systems, but in our people operations as well. So that's really great. Could you talk a little bit more about businesses, products that are a good fit, right? I know you mentioned small to medium-sized businesses, but even medium-sized businesses may think, you know what, my commerce we're unique. You can't handle this, too complicated. The invoice is too large to, you know, put through this type of processing. I know we're kind of jumping into a little bit of objections earlier, and so we'll get to some more of those. But if you could talk a little bit about the right fit for HubSpot Payments, I think that would be really useful to our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just start by saying and just recognizing that change is scary for a business whenever you're changing anything. When you're changing the way that you make money and reconcile everything, though, that's a giant change. So I do just want to recognize the fact that this is a big change for a lot of businesses, but also in order to really grow and to meet the moment, businesses do need to embrace change. And so while you may think you have a super unique and super complex process, I'd encourage you to always reconsider, could we make it less complex? Could we make it simpler? Could we be a little bit more lightweight? Do we need to have all of these different tools in our tech stack? Had so many conversations with folks, and when I push them on those things, the answer ends up being, well, maybe we don't actually need all of those things. So I know that change is scary, but I'd encourage you all to embrace change, and especially in this environment that we're living in right now in late 2022. Now, when it comes to how we're solving these problems for businesses, we're really thinking about things through two sides of a coin, the rep-assisted sale, as well as the more touchless and lightweight and online sale. So right now, when it comes to like the best fits for HubSpot Payments, frankly, Tiffany, it's a lot of firms like Dynamico, where they're professional services who offer, you know, project-based work or retainers or memberships. So we're seeing a lot of folks like your business see a lot of success with HubSpot Payments. We're seeing a lot of folks with general high consideration sales. Let's call it expensive machinery as an example, or home building. Those folks are great fits for HubSpot Payments as well. We also are seeing people and companies open up new revenue streams entirely. So during this past summer, we had a big product push that we're calling embedded payments that allows for you to do things like connect payments to a meetings link, for example, to get paid for your time, which really is the easiest thing that you could ever sell. And
For
so
sure.
we're seeing like pro services, that's a great fit for us. Frankly, we can fit with just about any industry, though. We also really are seeing a lot of folks who are rethinking their go-to-market and how they can be as lightweight and efficient as possible and use their website to make money as well. So I'd say the other side of things and like the, I guess, persona type is those who like to experiment with things and potentially open up new revenue streams. And again, embrace change and embrace new go-to-market models. So that was maybe a long-winded answer there, but if you're listening to this, bet you're probably a good fit for HubSpot Payments.
For sure. I can't help though, but think about that person driving along and saying, yeah, but a $5,000 down payment for something, I don't want to pay the credit card fees for that. And that block is what keeps them from even wanting to talk about it, because that's so ingrained in the expectations we talk about. We have these B2B expectations, but we also have in the back of our heads our experiences, business to consumer. And in trying to make the ease of that business to consumer experience the same in business to business, what do you say to that person driving along thinking, no, to those credit card fees are just too much?
2.9% can add up pretty quickly. So I don't disagree with that. I'm happy to say that you can run both one-time and recurring payments on credit card or ACH with HubSpot Payments, though. And ACH does have a materially lower rate of 0.5% capped at $10 right now. So consider ACH. Now, I'd also say 40% of business-to-business transactions right now are happening via paper check. I don't know about you, Tiffany, but I've had the same paper checkbook for like 15 years or so. I just don't really, it's a 20th century relic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But 40% of B2B transactions are still happening via paper check. So there's a lot of room for improvement on that front. That's for sure. So consider ACH. Consider the fact that you're probably using paper checks in one way or another. And it's 2022, almost 2023 now. So lots of different ways to think about this for sure. But there's room to move into the future for businesses in a big.
There's also the cost of processing all of that paperwork. I was taking a walk with the owner of our business and talking about this upcoming podcast. And her response was, I cannot wait for the day that 100% of our invoicing goes like this. Because the process of PO numbers and all of that has a cost to it as well. So it's not that because you're sending a paper check, it's free. It's just not free in the moment, right? And then the opportunity for error there can really, really add up over time.
Time is money. There's no doubt about that. I'd also say we need to think more about what our customers want, not as much about what this business wants as well. Right now, 44% of B2B buyers are millennials, which is a number that is actually a lot higher than I expected it to be.
Yes.
Now, I personally fall into this bucket, so I'll speak for myself. I'll speak for myself here. I don't really want to talk to anyone. I want to be able to just go online, buy my product or service, and then move forward with my day. And so I'd also encourage you all to say like, well, what would my buyers really want here, as opposed to trying to force them to meet your process? Meet them where they are. I can tell you all that 44% number is only going up. That by definition, it is only going to be going up. So meet your buyers where they want to be. They don't want to cut a paper check and then put it in the mail and buy stamps and things like that. Like, they just don't want that. And they won't moving forward either.
Yeah. And I would argue that number is a lot higher if you go up the generations all the way to us Gen Xers, in that I don't have a relationship with the post office. I will avoid the post office. I will avoid writing a check at all costs. I just I want it to be easy. I'm busy and you know what I don't even want to do? I don't want to take my credit card out of my pocket anymore. I want that all securely saved so that I love that when you put your mouse in it and your credit card comes up. I know all the security people are frightened by that, but I love that ease. So I think that number is a lot higher when you consider all of the rest of us that have really leaned into that. Speaking of security, can you talk just briefly? I don't want any of our listeners, their eyes to start rolling back in their head,
Certainly
but
not.
how can we ease the fears of the CFOs and the IT people that are worried about credit card security and I don't want to hold on to numbers? Can you just briefly talk about that?
Yeah, this is a great call out. And, data security is essential, of course, on a lot of fronts. But when we're talking about money, it's obviously even more important. So right now with HubSpot Payments, we actually partner with Stripe, which is one of the biggest startups in history. And it's their infrastructure that's running behind the scenes to process these transactions and these payouts. Now, HubSpot Payments isn't a Stripe integration. It really is just running in the background. And frankly, folks, you don't really even see the word Stripe all. So that gives you the centricity and the power of HubSpot and the security and the reliability of Stripe's infrastructure, which really is at the very top of the industry. So we're very confident in our relationship with Stripe. Stripe is absolutely giant as well. Firms like Lyft essentially have the same relationship with Stripe that we do right now. Now, just thinking about the current state of things, the amount of businesses I've spoken to who, of course, when the calls aren't recording, tell me that they have written down credit card numbers of their customers and then shred them after the fact. Like, so many people right now are, not really talking about it, but they are holding that buyer payment information in ways that their buyers probably wouldn't love. So Stripe is going to be running in the background for HubSpot Payments. Thinking about what the current reality of security, though, there's a lot of room for improvement for a lot of different businesses.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We have a lot of companies that in their implementation, they're using QuickBooks and are keeping their payment processing in QuickBooks. Can you talk a little bit about why we can still integrate with QuickBooks from an accounting perspective, but move the payment processing into HubSpot? Is that the way to go? Or is it okay to be integrated with QuickBooks and leave our payment processing on that side? Love to know a little bit more about that.
Another awesome question. So yes, I definitely recommend integrating with QuickBooks. QuickBooks has about a 90% market share in the United States, and HubSpot is not going to be building an accounting system in the near future. Now, if you do use QuickBooks Payments right now, the reconciliation of that is, of course, quite simple because you're probably using QuickBooks Online to reconcile those payments anyway. If that is the case, though, all of your commerce data is living siloed within QuickBooks entirely. I'm sure for those folks who are listening right now saying, oh yeah, this is actually how my business is doing things. I bet that you have some front office teams reaching out to your accountants asking, hey, is this invoice paid up? Are we settled up with these people? And the accountants are like, oh my gosh, another question from this person around this. I could just give them access to QuickBooks, but I don't want to do that either. This is just something I've heard so often with folks using QuickBooks Payments and HubSpot as well. If you do use HubSpot Payments and QuickBooks for accounting, we have an amazing integration that we've worked a lot on throughout the year and that we're going to be continuing to work on that essentially uses workflow actions. So folks, I mentioned earlier on in this conversation that we have the payment object, which simply represents a transaction. The lowest hanging piece of fruit here when it comes to this QuickBooks integration is to use a payment-based workflow with the payment property status of succeeded, which then creates a paid invoice within QuickBooks automatically. And as of yesterday, actually, now syncs HubSpot Payments fees as expenses within QuickBooks. So that allows for you all to have the accounting records that you absolutely will always need to have, but you're still going to have the centricity and the power of HubSpot. Best news on this here as well, folks, is that we're actually going to also bring that invoice from QuickBooks back into HubSpot so that you can view that invoice object both on an index page, but also on those individual records. So no more front office folks reaching out to the back office folks asking questions. No more back office folks having anxiety about adding their front office team to their QuickBooks instance. It allows for you to really capitalize on the power of HubSpot while also checking the QuickBooks boxes that you need to check. So if you haven't explored those workflow actions yet, folks, I'd absolutely recommend doing so. It's unlocking a lot of power for a lot of different businesses. So check them out if you haven't already.
I feel like that is going to be the 60 to 90 seconds that is the most repeated. So either listen to that again, because that was a nugget of implementation advice from the master himself. And those details will be in this transcript of the show notes. So you can also go back and read them. In closing, Jack, what are you most excited about coming as we go into the end of the year, the beginning of 2023? What are you most excited about? And then we'll wrap up with where people can follow you.
I'm excited about so much, Tiffany. I'd say more than anything, I'm excited about the opportunity that this gives our customers and this gives our merchants. We're seeing that folks are both making a lot more money than they previously were because they're taking their products and services to market in new, more thoughtful, more lightweight ways. We're also seeing them save a lot of money as well because they don't have to pay those exorbitant credit card fees. They don't have to have 5 or 6 tools to run a quote to cash process when it should really only take one. So I'm really just excited about the fact that our merchants are going to be making more money and saving money as well. And so it unlocks a lot of value for our customers. And it is my favorite part about HubSpot that we really do keep our customers as our North Star. So that's what makes me most excited. If one of our customers can make more money and become an internal hero and close their computer and go home to their family earlier each day, that provides me a lot of joy. So that's what we're on the mission to do. And we're seeing customers see a ton of success with this already. Folks, we have the HubSpot Payments Hall of Fame that I recommend checking out if you haven't already, which spotlights a few different businesses. I'd love to see your business on the HubSpot Payments Hall of Fame in the very near future.
Yeah. Make more money and go home earlier. I think that is a philosophy that we all can buy into. Jack, thank you so much for your time today. This was enlightening and delightful at the same time. Tell us where we can just keep hearing golden nuggets from you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tiffany. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate you bringing me on here today. Folks, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. Jack Coopersmith, definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat with you as well. If you're thinking about using HubSpot payments for your own business or for your clients, if you all have questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'd love to keep the conversation going.
Awesome. Thanks. And we'll talk with all of y'all in our next episode.
Thank you for checking out this episode of RevOps Champions. This show is powered by Dynamico, a HubSpot consulting firm, helping businesses level up the technology systems that power their ability to scale. If you enjoyed what you learned in this episode, make sure to follow RevOps Champions wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or visit RevOpsChampions.com to get immediate access to all of the latest episodes.